Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear,
I'm
Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance
A
Assemble.
symbol.
Volume 203. And yes, I was just channeling my inner Ron Burgundy. Someone chewed up the cue cards wrong and put a question mark at the end. I do read everything at the end of that.
I'm not going to judge it too harshly. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry, everyone else in the GUA will judge me at that point.
Probably.
That's okay. I accept it. So, all right. Well, we are in the era of post Madam Web. We've got a lot. We got a new trailer, a new X-Men '97 trailer. We've got some great news that we've built up over the last couple of days and week. So yeah. But as we were talking offline, Brent, how's been your week?
Really, nothing to write home about. Nothing that special. Nothing worth going into. It's just,
On air, at least.
It's been your standard, regular, completely normal week.
Yeah, we will gladly you make of that as you will, listeners, as we both joke and laugh about it at this point. But no, I'm glad you are doing well. And David in the chat, good evening, David. Yeah, this week is we begin what we call benchmarks in our area. This is our final benchmarks before we got a couple more months of the school year, but this is our last test to see how our kids are doing. We've made a lot of pivots at my school, so we're seeing some positive results, which is good. The teachers have worked hard, the kids have worked hard, so we're moving in the right direction. I finally put the final touches mostly on this intercession camp that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and let's just say Chris's last month of weekends have been dominated by a lot of that, and this is my first upcoming weekend where I will not have that. I will be doing something else because, ladies and gentlemen, this is my final show for the next 2 weeks.
You got to leave them hanging there.
Yes. So next week I will be on a work trip going to Atlanta to visit the Ron Clark Academy, which I'm very excited about at that point. Hopefully get some new ideas to bring back to my school. And then the next week is my spring break, and my kids will be with the grandparents, and Aaron and I will be going on a much needed vacation to celebrate both our 40th birthdays.
Excellent.
So Brent will have two co-hosts. We will go with the Travis Squared at that point. Next week will be Travis Hines, and then the following week, Mr. Snell will be returning to do that. So I will see you all. This is my final episode for the next 2 weeks, and I will see you all in 3 weeks.
I mean, I feel like you just need to say, like, you need to drop off the final episode for the next 2 weeks. Like, just say you'll be back in a couple weeks. Like,
no, I wanted to have some fun. It was cool.
It's too final. I don't like it. I don't like
it. Yeah. I'm like a bad penny. I always turn up.
Jesus.
It's a good line from Indiana Jones. I take it. So, all right. Well, let us get with the network plug. So we are Marvel Alliance, and we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if we want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers, our $1 tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. We've got our recently wrapped-up show. We can watch this all day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga Rewatch, 24 episodes up there for all the patrons and to enjoy. And as we keep on plugging, next month we begin our newest show, Tales from the House of X. We'll be watching in this order: Deadpool, Deadpool 2, X-Men X2, X-Men First Class, and X-Men Days of Future Past. So next month we will record our first episode of that, Deadpool, as we march toward Deadpool and Wolverine. So I know we are very excited to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to revisit those.
Definitely. So we've got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC films through the years. Marvel and Clay and Jake doing their Marvel Snap reviews. I know Joe's getting ready to drop a whole bunch of Multiverse minutes that he's got already recorded and moving on. And then, so a lot of back content for you all to listen to. We want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network for all the lovely Patreon content. And if you got 30 to 90 seconds, you want to take some time to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. This is the final hours of this pre-order for the April of 2024 pre-orders. Final volume of Avengers by Busiek and Perez coming back into print. Got Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch, Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 4, an Omnibus 4, a lot of great omnis. Next ones, I believe, may be dropping tomorrow, if not the next week. So be on the lookout for that, OPB. Use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. One thing I want to see if I can find... well, I may not find it. Anyways, if you remember, I had shown off the new DC versus Marvel, the amalgams of them showing up in here. Jim Lee has put out, and you got to look it up. I don't want to waste time dead air trying to find it again. But Jim Lee has put out what the direct market covers are going to be for that. It's worth a look. Like, you look up, he's got Dark. It's all in pencils right now, but the Dark Claw, oh my gosh, it's pretty sick. So
I will make a point to look those up.
Yep. I'll send it to you after the show. A little bit easier to do that. So
Perfect.
But, all right. So, Brent, X-Men 97. It's a thing.
Yes. And it's impossible not to watch this through a lens, like this trailer, through a lens of like, I watched this show live. Like, when it was coming out, I was watching this show. Like, this show was very formative for how I view the X-Men. Like, it's using the Jim Lee design costumes, and it's one of the pivotal for the Mount Rushmore of animation for superheroes for at least people in our age bracket, with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and of course X-Men. It's so awesome that we get to revisit one of these, and I watched this trailer multiple times back to back, and it was so fantastic. I love this. This just had a huge smile on my face the whole time. Maybe the animation's not quite as nice as it was especially in those earlier episodes of the original series, which I'm revisiting now. I'm attempting to get through the rest of it. I have 40 some odd episodes to go before this comes out, but
whatever it takes.
I'm doing if I average 2 episodes a day, I make it with a few days to spare. So I'm on pace. So that's all good. But I tell you, this just, the whole thing about it just brings joy to me. Like, you haven't started the trailer yet, but you have it pulled up there. You see that Colossus figure in the bottom right corner? I had that toy. I played with that toy, and unfortunately,
that is real. That's real.
That's not one that has survived. So many of my superhero toys have survived, and my son plays with them to this day. But that's not one that survived. I don't know what happened to it, but I had that toy. I saw it. I'm like, I'm smiling already, and we haven't even started the actual trailer.
I can echo that. Like, I watched, lived and breathed, between Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series. Like, those shows are what, as I was getting into comic books, like you said, those were our kind of beginnings and helping our introduction to this universe. There is an outstanding book, highly recommended. I've got to look it up. I may even have to go, jump off screen once we're done with the trailer so I can showcase it off. That I can highly recommend if you are into looking at all the behind the scenes of everything about X-Men the Animated Series. I'll grab it when we're done with the trailer. But there's stuff. I just recently finished rewatching the whole series. I was following the
Is it X-Men the art and making of the animated series?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll show that in a little bit. But I was following since I'm a Geekverse patron. They were doing their releases of all their early kind of retrospectives of all. I think some of them are on the main feed now, but I had not seen that later season in a lot of times at that point. And yeah, it gets a little rough at the end, but there is just a lot of good gems in there. There was so much good potential with that show. I'm happy to have it back. We know we're at least guaranteed 2 seasons right now, and that's exciting to know that we're not left hanging about this first season. But yeah, it's so like you said, a lot of nostalgia. This is what this show is going to bring, and it's yes, we know right now this is not canon to the mainline 616 or it's MCU 999.
I don't know why that was a story. Obviously,
I
it's
don't know
canon,
why it was a
it's
story.
canon to the X-Men universe. They
It's
told us
canon
that.
It's canon to the what as you call it, the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse.
Absolutely, the MCM. It's part of Marvel Studios created this. It's canon to Marvel Media. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Like contrary to popular belief, it doesn't have to be part of the sacred timeline to be worthy of us watching it. It's just it's got a Marvel logo and it has to be, and we want to like it, we want to enjoy it. Like those are the qualifications, and so this is. It's got the greatest chance to really hit all those buttons. And how are we possibly going to watch this without the nostalgia glasses on? We're not going to be able to. And just people need to know that going into it.
Yeah, and like Brent said, we'll have a little critiques at that point, but we pause our critiques until we actually see the show in action when it comes in. But you're right. So we open up right here before I even hit play. We got an old CRT TV. It cues up, and you won't hear the narrator, but the narrator is talking about the series finale of X-Men the Animated Series where we left off. As you said, off to the left-hand side, off to the right-hand side, we see that old Colossus figure. Off to the left-hand side is that infamous picture of Scott and Jean that Wolverine famously touched so lovingly and cut through Scott's face. Brent, you created an amazing putting Marvel Alliance in that, and I think we need to bring that back.
I should still have it. I'll find it.
Oh, I definitely still have it. I was tempted to use it tonight, but as I remember, I did not even tweet out the live tweet. So talk about a few other things that you see here while I put that out there.
Well, it's kind of hard to see on my screen right here, but there's a couple little hints and stuff up towards the top. One of which is X-Men DOFP for Days of Future Past. And let's see, one of them says, of course, when I zoom it in, it's kind of blurry, so I can't tell what the other two are right now.
The other two are, X-Men Special, X-Men Cartoon, and X-Men Days of Future Past.
That's it. X-Men Special is the one I was really struggling on there. And there was, like, a Christmas episode. I believe it involved the Morlocks, if I remember right. I haven't got back to that yet on my rewatch. But, I found that picture, by the way. But it is... like just everything about this, especially the CRT TV, just everything about it's like take me back to my childhood.
Oh yeah, it's there's something like they did right by doing this in the way they introduced it, because again, like we said, that's how they introduced everyone to, again, the X-Men were were exactly like you said, those Jim Lee costumes. There's something special about those. There's a reason why that X-Men #1 by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont is the #1 selling single issue comic of all time.
Yeah. And in that era of the comic books, it was like when they had the different colored squads, like the blue team, the gold team, and that's all like in the 90s, and again, it's super formative for me. And like I love that stuff. Like Cyclops was the leader of the blue team and Storm leader of the gold team. And even then I was like, oh, and on the show, they've kind of got people from both teams, and it's pretty cool. And they just, they're the leaders of the show, like, or the field commanders. It's Cyclops and then Storm. Just everything about it. And the original show brought in so many different characters, introduced us to so many different villains and, X-adjacent characters, and just everything about it was so great. If you're ready, I say let's get into this trailer.
Yep, I am ready, and so let me do that, and here we go. Saturday mornings, yep, that was it, and we see, we see scenes from the quote-unquote final episode of the that aired in 1996, hence why this show is entitled X-Men 97. So one of the things, like, they kind of think, if you've never seen the final episode of it, spoiler alert, they seem to hint like Charles Xavier died. No, he did not die at the end of this first series of it. What happened if, I'll go quickly into it. Henry Peter Gyrick attacks him with a telepathic weapon that nearly kills him, and the X-Men sneak into Genosha to reason with Magneto, who's getting ready to start a global war as a result of this attack on his friend. They tell him Charles was dying. He calls off the attack, and then during, like, as he says goodbye to all the team, including Magneto, Empress of the Shi'ar Empire, Lilandra, the love of Charles's life, shows up, says she can heal him. However, she has to take him to their home world in the Shi'ar Empire. So the interesting thing is, Brent, this actually happened in the comics, if you remember.
Yeah, which I mean, so much of the show was derivative of what did happen in the comics. I saw Days of Future Past on the show before I ever read the comic series, but
Yeah.
so much of it, the first time I ever did saw anything with the Phoenix Saga was in the show versus the comics, and so
still, the animated show has done the best job of encompassing the Phoenix Saga.
Yes, there's no question about that. It's not up for debate. But so of course, the stuff with Charles Xavier having to go off to the Shi'ar Empire and stuff was from the comics. So much of this show was.
Yeah, and so in the comic, that also led to Magneto turning good and leading the X-Men for a time while Charles was off planet. This is what this show is hinting towards as well. Now, interesting enough, Chris Claremont's original plan was to have Charles be killed by issue 300 off planet and Magneto to permanently go good and take over the Gifted School and become the X-Men's new leader and show his evolution, with Apocalypse becoming the new big bad and Magneto staying permanently good. We may be getting homages to this in this new series. So as we continue on, we get the new Marvel animation logo.
Yes. So. I love this logo, and in hindsight, I'm like, they should have done this for Echo with Marvel Spotlight. Like, this should have been the Marvel Spotlight logo. Like, just use the Marvel Studios font, but change the word after Marvel. But yeah, like, it's so simple. It really is just the Studios logo, but animation instead of Studios. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome.
So we open on a city. All right, so we get spotlights going on. I'm going to ease back just a little bit. And right here in the left corner, I believe that is Callisto, who's a former leader of the Morlocks, and who lost her leadership title to Storm in the series. And next to her, I believe that is also Leech.
Probably.
Okay, here we go. Brent, break down this photo of the Daily Bugle and why the Daily Bugle is so important, why some of these headlines are quite fascinating.
Well, Daily Bugle, obviously, that's, J. Jonah Jameson's newspaper. He's always going after Spider-Man. Is Spider-Man a mutant? It says at the top. One, they left out the hyphen, those jerks. Respect the hyphen, people. There's a hyphen in Spider-Man. Two, is Spider-Man a mutant? Keep in mind, this show is canon with the Spider-Man, the animated series show from the 90s. In fact,
correct.
A couple of the X-Men, well, all the X-Men appeared in one episode, and then Wolverine and Beast heavily in the episode following that. And in that time for Spider-Man, he was going through a mutation. So he was referring to himself as a mutant. And he was worried about basically mutating in a way that was going to... well, if you watch the show, ultimately he becomes a giant spider for a while. But so he was dealing with that kind of issue. So is Spider-Man a mutant? It's a question. It kind of depends on your definition of the word mutant. He's not technically a mutant as far as Marvel's concerned, people who are born with their powers, but he is technically a mutate, people who, like the Hulk, who got powers later. There's also reference to the Hellfire Gala. This is newer for X-Men, but it's been a huge thing the last several years, so you got to wonder if we're going to see anything related to that. I got to ask, do you think we're going to see the Hellfire Gala? Like, are we going to actually see it happen?
I think there's a strong hint that we would at that point. Now, right now, I'm not sure as we get deeper into the trailer, I'm not sure we're going to go full Krakoa. I don't think that. I think we're going back to some other place that is canon to the show, which we'll get into in a little bit. So, but you got to love the bylines of the Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, let's see. Again, remind me what was on it. The resolution on my screen isn't very high.
Gotcha.
Right now.
It is, the byline is Peter Parker, and it was written by Eddie Brock and photos by
That's
Peter
right.
Parker.
It was Eddie Brock, which is weird because Eddie Brock and Peter Parker were not exactly on friendly terms in Spider-Man
Yeah, a
animated
little bit.
series. So that's right. And but you know what? I love those little Easter eggs. I love those little call outs. So it's pretty cool they threw that in there for us.
I know friend of the show and head of the Animation Nation coast of DC Alliance, Travis Hines, is pining and praying for a crossover with this.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So continuing on, you see the animation, see the narrator is saying, Storm is, no, excuse me, not Storm. We hear the line, "We have to stay vigilant." And we see, remembrance of Charles, and we see this casket going in. I'm saying this is a misdirect. Either they're saying Charles has been gone too long, they think he's dead. I do not think Charles Xavier is dead.
Neither do I. And I mean, unless I guess the implication could be he died and the Shi'ar brought his body back. But no, I bet you this is a misdirect as well.
Yes.
This is probably somebody. That's probably like a random mutant who was killed by like the FOH or something like that.
Speaking of FOH, you see the little sign in the background.
Yep.
Again, we have we have everyone, against the mutants. Imagine that at that point. Anti-mutants, friends of humanity. And you get the military getting up. Up. Let's look at that. Someone's coming back.
Sentinel action there.
Yep, little Sentinel hand, created by Bolivier Trask to hunt down the mutants. And by the end of the original series, it appeared that all the Sentinels were destroyed, but looks like they're about to be reactivated.
I love watching the X-Men fight the Sentinels.
Mm-hmm. And they were, I have to say, like, they became like a menacing part of this series. Like, they were a decent foe.
Absolutely.
So we see we're going to the United Nations, and there in the background it is Magneto. Yep. In his new outfit, I believe we're gonna see him in. And we get Storm saying, I believe Storm narrates, "No matter how dark, we must believe in each other." So this is, we get two statues here. We get Charles Xavier, Magneto, and this like kind of temple going on. And this is I think Magneto's palace. I don't think we're on Krakoa. I think we're on Genosha.
Okay, I like that.
So originally in the show, it was a mutant slave colony, but in the comics, Magneto takes it over and it becomes a new haven for mutants. So I think I think it's a big leap. I don't
takes it over, becomes a haven before it's destroyed.
Yeah. And then a whole lot of other stuff goes on, but they tried. So we get the shadows of some of our X-Men, including a pointy masked person right there, our friendly raging Canuck, right?
Absolutely.
Nope, we get Gambit, we get Storm coming through, Wolverine. Yep, here's our nice little hero shot of the everyone on the Blackbird, right?
Yeah,
I do like really... Storm's new haircut. I love it.
I agree, and you can tell the animation's a little different on this one. You can tell the designs are a little different. It's a little, and it's fine. It totally works. You can tell there's still these same versions of these characters.
Yeah, there were what was leaks saying before this was originally going to be modeled after the What If kind of cell shaded at that point before they made a shift to try to maybe combine that with what the show did. Now, I don't necessarily hate on this animation style right now. Yes, is it jarring for what I'm used to? Sure, but I need to see more of it like in the show to get used to it, because I definitely I'm not opposed to it right now. Like I was expecting some sort of update with it, the filter being quote unquote the original X-Men series, but we've got, as I pointed out here, we got Storm with a new haircut. I'm watching her look in the comics for a time. Bishop has officially joined the team, so I'll be curious to see why he is now kind of more of a permanent member of the squad. And then we see Morph, now donning I believe it was the Age of Apocalypse Exiles look, where he kind of took on the more of the kind of white Casper the Ghost face, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it kind of fits with his character. Like, what is his real face when he can be anybody? Like,
Mm.
we've seen like Mystique toy with that in the comics and stuff before as well,
Eh,
and it's a thing shapeshifters go through. So it makes total sense. I'm glad they updated his look to look like this.
Yeah, and originally in the in the show, he's gone back and forth becoming a hero, a villain. He's thought to be killed by the Sentinels, then brainwashed by Mister Sinister to be good, and was later introduced in the comics. And there's been some scuttlebutt on the interwebs about not necessarily his look, but that the showrunners have gone out and said that Morph is now in the show going to be non-binary. And you know what? Good. I'm
That
okay with
tracks.
that. You
That
know why?
tracks.
If you think about the character of Morph, yeah, sure, why not? Morph being a non-binary character, good, bring it on. And if you're upset that the X-Men are quote unquote too woke, then at this point you have not understood what the X-Men are about. It's almost like saying, when does Star Trek go woke? Star Trek went quote unquote woke when it was introduced.
Yep, absolutely.
So if you don't like it, guess what? Then you can create your own canon. This show is not for you, and please don't bring it to our show. I am all here for representation, as Brent and I said. Representation
Absolutely.
matters.
Yes, completely co-sign.
So, so let us move on. Oh, you gotta have Logan knocking Cyclops, right? Because remember, hashtag Cyclops is wrong.
You're so close. No, Cyclops
I am.
was right.
I not only close. I'm right.
That's okay. Cyclops had what I think was the coolest moment of this trailer. So.
Yes, I will agree that when that moment comes up, I will fully agree that moment was cool. So this March, which we do have a date, March 20th, Wednesdays. And what I will say about the animation style, like I've gone on record that I am not the biggest anime fan, but I do see the style of anime in this, but not to the point of where it is not the animation style I'm a fan of. I appreciate anime style. It just hasn't been for me, and I've tried so many different times. So the X-Men Return, Jubilee, a little bit of dancing, and Morph in the original look that we got introduced to Morph. Now, Morph was created for the show, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
And most of the time I've had with Morph was in the Exiles run.
And we got a baby bump going on. Who is pregnant, Brent?
Well, I think that's probably a Jean Grey, right?
That is Jean Grey, or is it?
or is it is a good question. I guess otherwise it might be one Madeline Pryor.
And one Madeline Pryor. So we got a baby on board. Could we be seeing Nathaniel Summers, aka Future Cable?
I hope so. I hope so. I'll just go with that. I like Cable a lot. He shows up several times in the original series. I'd be totally fine with seeing more of him here.
Yep, we get the Sentinels surrounding them. Okay, I'm sorry. What's about you all see at this point? This is probably one of the coolest things about this trailer.
This scene is amazing.
I don't think I don't know if this had never been done in the comics. It might. I mean, the X-Men comics have been. If it hadn't been done, and they thought about this idea in the show. Oh my gosh, what a cool concept!
Absolutely love it. Gambit, on the back of Wolverine, charging his claws up for him. Absolutely love it. But for me, the coolest moment is right after this one, when Cyclops says their rallying call.
Yep. To me, my X-Men.
Yes, that is their equivalent of Avengers Assemble, and I love it every time.
Yep. And that's what Charles Xavier would say to the X-Men. And I remember it was famously reintroduced in Hickman's House and Powers of X.
Yeah.
So gotta love the hero shot. And there will be more X-Men than this. I believe Sunspot will be joining the team this season.
We've seen
as
artwork with them. We've seen artwork.
So there will be some new characters joining the team. X-Men 97, and then we get little post-credits. The last will and testament of Charles Xavier, and Magneto saying Charles has left everything to him. So, again, they are kind of making it seem, when you're reading the last will and testament of Charles Xavier, either he really is dead or he's been gone long enough where they're declaring him dead.
they definitely want you to think, as like you as the viewer, to think that he is dead. So it starts on March 20th. What we don't know is, one, is this going to be a 2 a.m. Central, 3 a.m. Eastern time drop, or are they going to really drop it on Tuesday nights? I'm hoping for that. We don't know yet. I haven't seen anything on the number of episodes, and I haven't seen anything on are they doing more than one episode for that first week? Like, because we've seen Marvel and Disney Plus do all of these variations,
Yep.
but so there's still more details to come, and I got to think at least one more trailer before it comes out will be coming soon. We still have about a month to go.
Gotta love that poster, using new episodes, new era, using the old VHS tapes at that point for each one of the main team.
Yep.
So,
I had a couple VHS tapes back in the day.
I did too. But yeah, so a lot of excitement. I'm really thrilled to have it finally. We get a date. It's the day after my birthday, so happy birthday to me at that point. And yeah, so we will be reviewing it. We'll wait to see exactly, is it going to be episode a week? I kind of hope it's one episode a week. What if nearly killed me?
We don't need a daily drop for it. No, I don't need that. But one a week for however many weeks, that'd be nice.
Yeah, because we don't have a final episode count yet, do we?
No.
Okay. No. So, all right. Well, we're going to take our first ad break for the episode. So, listeners, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, Brent. So, we move on from the X-Men to Marvel's first family. So, at first, we've heard all the rumors and everything like that about the cast, gone back and forth all of the time. We haven't heard an official announcement. Well, on Valentine's Day, Marvel officially reveals the new first family of the Fantastic Four with a tweet. Happy Valentine's Day from Marvel's first family. Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Moss-Bacharach, and Joseph Quinn are the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four in theaters, July 25th, 2025. And they gave us this very 1960s, era photo of the team that we have here, including Herbie.
Yes, which I had a Fact or Fiction on.
You did. And Marvel supposedly is looking for a male or female comedian to voice Herbie.
Yeah, if you just in case you don't know who Herbie is, he was on like the old was it not the 60s? I don't know, 60s, had an old cartoon of Fantastic Four, like super old, like predating all the 90s stuff, and basically the people, like either the people creating the show or the censors or whoever, were worried that having a character like the Human Torch would teach little kids to light things on fire
because people are
dumb. So yeah, they booted Human Torch and they brought in Herbie, but he is we're gonna get all the characters in this one, and I definitely think that just sounds like a blast. I was so glad to see Herbie on this poster.
Yeah, it was a nice little surprise. And again, yeah, you got that Fact or Fiction right, so kudos to you. So a couple of things about this poster. First, great, love it, love the ideas. We get some hints that the Thing is actually reading Life magazine from December 1963, so it could be actually taking place in either end of 63 or the beginning of 1964.
Yeah.
We get, Ben Grimm, Eben, the actor in the quote unquote his human side when he was an astronaut at that point in the background, so you can kind of see everyone's matched up. We get, as per usual, Marvel story details remain very scant about what's going on. Matt Shakman will direct the Fantastic Four from a screenplay by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. News of Pascal's casting leaked in November. One of the most high-demanded actors. He has been in The Last of Us, Mandalorian, as well. After several standout performances in British TV, Quinn broke out as the wily, heartbreaking Eddie Munson on Season 4 of Stranger Things. And Moss Barack has recently won an Emmy for his performance as Richard Richie Jaramoch in The Bear. Aaron and I just really, we're about halfway through season 1, and man, that it's an intense show.
And there's episodes in front where there's an episode in front where you'll see some of the best work he's done. In case you don't know the title, I don't even want to tell you just because I don't want to spoil it for you. But looking at this cast in general, like Joseph Quinn, I'm not familiar with him. I haven't seen Stranger Things. But everybody else I'm familiar with from multiple different projects, and I am really excited about this cast.
Yeah, Vanessa Kirby is like absolutely rose to prominence as Princess Margaret in The Crown. Loved The Crown, loved her performance, and she really, like, whenever she was on for that season, it was one of my it's definitely some of my favorite episodes.
She's also, hashtag family. She is in the Fast and Furious family.
Yes, she is.
She got to mention that.
Yep, she earned an Oscar nomination for her performance in Pieces of a Woman, and she did previously tease her desire to take on the Invisible Woman. She said it'd be an honor to play Sue Storm, and she's been part of the Mission Impossible franchise as well. There have been heavy rumors that even though Reed Richards is the head of the family, the movie will supposedly put Sue Storm as more of the lead of the movie, which, of all the characters, technically, by power standpoint, she is the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four.
She took the Hulk down once.
She did. You use those invisible powers, it's amazing what you can do with them at that point. But yes, she is canonically the most powerful member.
Yes, absolutely.
So definitely here for it. And yeah, so we got our first look at a version of Mr. Fantastic with John Krasinski playing the fan favorite casting of at that point. And I know some people are quote unquote disappointed that he doesn't get to continue. Hey, we got it at least. There was at least a time that we did have it. But Pedro Pascal, Brent and I have echoed this for ever since the hinting of the casting. Like Pedro Pascal, yes, he's the it guy right now, and people say, oh my gosh, what he's in everything right now. There's obviously something about the character and about the idea of the script that's enticing him to want to take on another franchise.
Yeah,
2,
absolutely.
Reed is a big family man, but also he has a dark side to him. And I think Pedro Pascal, in his many history of playing a protagonist and an antagonist, that is someone that is a great casting for Reed Richards.
Yeah, I wanted to mention with Eben Masbachrock that a lot of people are like, oh, he was in a few episodes of Andor, which, yes, he was fantastic. Well. Of course, he was in The Bear. Yes. So many people are forgetting he was in The Punisher. He was in season 1 of The Punisher. He played David Lieberman, a.k.a. Micro. Yep. And so he was in, 12 of the 13 episodes, if not all 13 of them. I think it was 12 of 13. He was a major part of season 1 of that show as well. Plenty of projects to see his work and see him advance, because I would say The Bear is probably The Bear is his best work that I've seen him in, but I've just enjoyed him in so many different things and so many different characters.
Yeah, so we finally have a cast, Brent, and we're just going to say this again. It's hard not to see that all these announcements broke last week with Madam Web, and they've been sitting on this. So I'm sorry to say that some of yours and Mr. Snell's predictions have been busted.
That's okay.
But that's okay. But guess what?
It's our long national nightmare is over of having to suffer through casting.
No, we get new stuff to suffer through with casting.
Yeah, Doctor Doom now is what everyone's talking about. But that's at least one character, not 4.
Yeah. So yeah, they're sticking right now with the date, July 25th, 2025. That is 2 weeks after Superman Legacy. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, is it going to hit the date? Is it going to move? With a lot of stuff going on right now, if they want to hit that date, they're going to have to start filming very quickly, early summer, late summer.
And to be fair, we have no idea what the status is of the script and things like that. They could be ready to go. One last thing I have on this poster with Matt Shackman directing, it gives off WandaVision vibes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I would have been fine with Watts directing, but with the direction, with the indication of this looking like, being probably in the 60s, the WandaVision vibes, we know he can definitely do the different periods. So I'm very happy with the team behind this movie right now.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a lot of different things that's happening here. It's going to start in the 60s. They get time displaced. They jump through the multiverse. You know, I've heard of stuff like it starts in the 60s. They get their powers and somehow get propelled into the 616, 1999, you know, whatever we're calling it.
For what it's worth, I think it starts in the 60s. They go through the negative zone. They pop out in the present.
Yep.
I'm just putting it out there. That's specifically what I think is going to happen.
Yep. So it's, again, I'm excited, but I will say this. There's been a reason, kind of like why the X-Men's taken forever for the MCU to kind of start figuring out what they're doing with the X-Men. I'm not saying the previous, you know, some of the, like, the Fantastic Four has not gotten it right totally. Definitely the last film, in my humble opinion, did not get that film right. What little I've not seen the full movie. I've seen enough of it to say, yeah, this isn't my tempo. You know?
No, the two Fantastic Four movies prior to that with Jessica Alba,
they're films
Chris
of their
Evans,
era.
They are of their era. But if you want to watch a Fantastic Four movie right now, Incredibles jokes aside, watch those. Watch those ones.
Or watch Richard Corbin's version of it. That could be entertaining
Sure,
within
there
itself.
you go. There you go. Yeah.
that is entertaining within itself. But yeah, I'm excited at the opportunity. Fantastic Four as a comics, it's one of the few that I kind of dabble in here or there. I have read Hickman's run. I do like it. I do not put it on a pedestal as much as some other people. It's just it's okay to me. Yeah, I like a lot of other Hickman's runs, but I've never been a Fantastic Four like uber fan. I am excited to see the Fantastic Four on screen in this different way. Again, give me a new story. Give me this cast. I'm here for it. I'm always going to give it a chance. I give everything a chance.
Absolutely.
So, but all right, and yeah. So as you saw me hinting around, yeah, this is the art of the making of the animated series, the X-Men. Highly recommend this book. Excellent stuff. Excellent background. All right, Brent. So move on from a lot of excitement to. Yeah, this doesn't sound good.
I was excited, but I don't like what I'm hearing.
Yes, don't like what I'm hearing. So this is coming from the Ankler.com. Silk Spider Society Writers Room scrapped by Amazon. They say the hotly anticipated Silk Spider Society has let go of its entire writers' room minus its showrunner and one of the co-executive producers, as the show gets a development overhaul, a source close to the show tells the Ankler. Deadline had previously reported that the Silk Writers Room was set to reconvene in mid to late January. This series is one of the first several live-action Marvel-Sony co-productions to get a green light from Amazon. Also in the works is Spider-Man Noir, where they are told, get this, this was kind of like buried in it. Nicolas Cage is in serious talks to take on the lead role of the series of the character he voiced in Into the Spider-Verse.
How is that not the lead, like the headline on this article? By the way, that's such a bigger deal.
I think if it bleeds, it leads. So unfortunately,
yeah, I love the idea of Nicolas Cage doing that. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. But the idea of them scrapping the Silk Writers Room so they can refocus the character to a more male skewing audience, I'm like, God, that's not it, guys. That's not it.
Yeah, a source close to the studio says that Angela Kang, who has a multi-year overall deal with Amazon, will continue as the showrunner for the series that centers on the Korean-American heroine Cindy Moon, who, according to the reports of Logline, is bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker and goes searching for her missing family. But as you said, like it's the idea that it's saying with a refocus more of male skewing audience, That's such a I don't even know what to make of that. I mean, on the surface level, I'm offended, and because we're making a female-focused, female-led show, female character, making it more male-focused. Now, Cindy Moon's power set has some very interesting dynamics when it comes to her interaction with Peter Parker, but that they called out a male-focused, now kind of leaning towards it, saying, one, with the effects of what Madam Web is, things like that, it's like, if you're saying a female-led movie, that what Madam Web shows is a female-led movie can't make the box, no. That's the wrong thing to take from what's going on with Madam Web. Absolutely the wrong thing to take from that. And if that's what they're doing because of that, then they're bigger idiots than they're even bigger idiots than I already think Sony executives are.
I've long wanted a TV show for Spider-Man. So when I found out
Yes.
that they were doing one for Silk, I was like, perfect, great, I'll take it. I absolutely want to see the show, but I am not liking what this is. I do, however, like the rumor of Nicolas Cage appearing as Spider-Man Noir. So hopefully that part of it becomes true. Hopefully they get put on a better path.
Yeah. I mean, previously we had covered on the show that the Silk Rider Room had been that they were a number of episodes deep into the season before the strike began. And then when the strike ended, several shows were still on ice at Amazon, and they were and the WGA sent a very sternly worded letter to Amazon informing the studio that their failure to recommence a number of writing rooms after the strike was a violation of the strike termination agreement between the WGA and the AMPTP. So I'd like the potential of the Cindy Moon show. I really do. But what I don't like hearing is what the supposed thing they're about to do with it. Again, I will reserve judgment, and leaks are leaks, and unnamed sources are unnamed sources. But to your point, yes, would I like a live action Spider-Man show? Yes. But again, as we just said with the whole thing with more representation matters, and Spider-Man, Cindy Moon is a very intriguing character to focus on at that point.
Absolutely.
So let's hopefully better this idea of a changing the focus of the Silk show does not come true. But if it does, well, we'll reserve judgment until we see it. But I will continue to say this: do better, Sony. Do better, Amazon. We know you can. But yeah, we all make choices, Brent.
Well, you're not wrong about that.
All right, Brent. So it is your time of the show. New movie has come out. The box office has been updated. So tell us about how the blueprint of Madam Web did this past week.
Yeah, so Madam Web it released on a Wednesday. So all the reports about it were what its 6-day opening was going to be. Typically, it's 3-day openings plus Thursday night previews because, it's Friday through Sunday. This is 6 days. You back it up to Wednesday. That gives you 2 more. Monday was a holiday, and so domestically, they were referring to it as a 6-day opening. So just keep that in mind when I tell you it made $25 million domestically for its 6-day opening. There's no getting around it. That's absolutely horrific. There were reports that studio sources were saying they were basically watching in real time as people were having their tickets refunded. The more and more the bad word of mouth got out there. Worldwide, it is, as of today, at $54 million, according to thenumbers.com. So I know the budget I've seen for it was $100 million. I don't know if that's like the final number that's coming out, but that seems to be the number everybody's settling on. $54 million there. It's going to be close. I don't know if it's opened in all the markets, but I would anticipate a very, very significant drop-off this weekend. To be fair, this weekend will be regarded as a 3-day weekend, not a 6-day weekend, but I think it's still going to be a very significant drop-off. So, not good. Not good, Bob.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Again, you check out our review, I'd like to think that Brent and I did, we did not make any illusions that this was, we did not believe in our subjective opinion, we did not like Madam Web.
I think we were pretty clear about that.
Yeah, we were very clear. Julio Zapata in the chat saying I read it was 80 million budget.
That's the number I originally heard, and then I heard 100 after that. 80 would be a lot better. 80 would be a lot better.
But we are not one of these that, again, we saw the movie, so we have an opinion on it. And we also were very clear that this was by far not the worst movie we have ever seen, let alone the worst superhero movie we have ever seen. It was just, in our opinion, not a good movie. And we are not ones to constantly go out there and tweet out saying, oh, it's terrible, don't go see this, things like that. Like, we put on out there in our review saying we didn't recommend to be seeing it. But again, just like with everything, I know some people that actually liked it. I'm happy for them. but
Well, it's always better to have a positive movie going experience.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning if you listen to our review or other reviews and you haven't seen the movie yet, and then you go see the movie, you're not likely to dislike it as much as we did because you've been spoiled on the movie already. You know
Yeah,
some
no,
of the cringy,
fair.
goofy stuff that's going to happen. And just to get it out there, because I've seen a little bit of this narrative too, it's not because it's Sony. Like people
No.
don't. I mean, sure, there
For
are
us,
some
it has
people-
nothing to do with
There are
that.
some people, but like I was looking at the Sony led projects, and I'm like, I actually, I have Morbius, which I thought was fine. I liked Let There Be Carnage. I did have problems with the first Venom movie. I'm like, I actually, and not to mention the Spider-Verse movies, which I adore. I'm like, in general, Sony has more hits with me than misses. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not because of not Marvel Studios, but bottom line is the movie is tanking at this point. Are they even going to break even? It's not looking great, but licensing deals, money they'll get as it goes to streaming and whatever they sell at VOD, maybe eventually it'll limp its way to break even, but that's not where you want any of these movies to be.
Yeah, and when it came down to it, also Sony did a terrible job marketing this movie.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Absolutely
Yes.
abysmal job. And I take and I took this point of view, but I didn't have it necessarily put into words. And friend of mine, your former co-host and friend of Phantoms Without Borders, Ray, has this adage, and I like it. And he put it into words, and I go with that attitude. Prove to me you're bad. I go into a movie saying
We
you're
used to
going.
talk about that, yep.
I go into movies saying I'm gonna expecting a good movie. Prove to me you're bad.
It
Was
did.
this? And you know what? There was a lot of things I just did not like about the movie, and that's my opinion. You had your opinion as well, but we also talked about the areas that we did like the movie. There were parts and elements of it that there were not many, but there were.
So at this point, I think it's safe to say this will be the last time we bring up Madam Web, unless
Yes.
someone specifically has a question related to it. In which case, by all means, send it in.
Yep.
Or if it somehow like pulls an elemental and has the longest legs ever and ends up smashing the box office or something, I'm sure we'll bring that up too.
I want all the success, and again, I hope nothing but the best for the cast and crew. I hope this does not ruin any kind of futures. At that point, I think the younger actresses will be fine. I think Dakota Johnson will be fine. I think the director will be fine. At that point, they just, again, this just was not what they probably ended up signing up for, and things were changed. But, yep, so we can officially retire. Madam Web is the blueprint. I know Mr. Snell is very happy to hear that. It was fun while it lasted, Brent.
Indeed, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to take our final ad break before we get into Factor Fictions, listener feedback, and Comic Book Club. All right, ladies and gentlemen, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, I see some Amari Daniels in the chat. What is Amari saying right now? He says, I want a Madam Web prequel about Cassandra's mom who was researching spiders in the Amazon right before she died.
Sure, I guess. Enjoy. I'll go watch it, but I would rather they don't make it.
Yeah. All right, Brent. So you put out the Spidey signal. And
we got a few questions. First
Yeah.
up from Zach, what cameos would we like to see in X-Men 97?
of mutants at that point.
It just says
Yeah.
cameos. That's the entire question. So I would say, to me, someone not on the core cast. Let's get say it for Mr. Hines, Spider-Man.
Okay, Spider-Man. Yes, that's low hanging fruit, but sure. I want to see the Avengers.
Ooh,
I
like
want to
that.
see the Avengers in this
In that
animation
world.
style.
That would be fun.
Yep, that world. We've already seen Cap. We've seen Cap.
Yep.
Like back in World War II Cap, but
Yeah, and you do get Cap in the present day on the Spider-Man side.
Yes.
But I would like to see Iceman again. He's only in one episode of the original run of the show. I'd love to see Iceman come back. I'd love to see Colossus or Nightcrawler come back.
yeah. I definitely think there's a strong possibility of Colossus coming back.
Yeah, and then there is one other member of the Summers family that very much enjoy. And I think he also was one episode with a speaking part, and maybe one or two montages, and that would be Havoc, Alex Summers. I would love to see him
with finally
show up.
them realizing they're brothers, right?
Yes. Like, oh, your powers don't work on me. I wonder why, because we're related.
No, yeah, that was seeing that episode again. Said, nobody asked any more questions about that. We just accepted that.
I mean, they, like in the Phoenix Saga, you have Black Tom Cassidy and Juggernaut, and Sean Cassidy, who they talk about it and they say it when that happens, but that's it. Other cameos, I love the idea of the Avengers. Just how about some characters that a character we haven't seen like in this era, or like a character they haven't interacted with. Like technically, these were all part. Like there was an Iron Man show and a Fantastic Four show around the same time.
Oh, that intro for Iron Man,
yes,
that animated show. Oh my gosh, epic!
And they all did cross. Like there were elements from all of it crossed over together in the Secret Wars story arc in Spider-Man, but there wasn't a ton of like Iron Man and X-Men interaction in there. So you know what? Should have Iron Man or somebody from the Fantastic Four show up.
All right, I'm not trying to troll. This is not me trolling, because I genuinely have a soft spot in my heart for this team because of, namely, the art style and the creative team. Ecstatics. I want to see Ecstatics in the show. Or, you know what I would love for them to go, even just an episode or two, do an arc. Maybe not this season, but next season. I would love to see an Age of Apocalypse version on this show. I really would.
Yeah, I feel like they need more. We don't know the episode count, but I'm going to predict it's 9. I bet they need more episodes to do something like Age of Apocalypse.
I agree. I would like to see it just because
third season. We just need a third season, and then they can.
There we go. Do a whole season in Age of Apocalypse. Love it. Absolutely love it.
All right, from Philip. What kind of story do you want to see from Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four, and do you think a potential 1960s period piece is a great way to distinguish itself from past interpretations, specifically on the big screen? I will say this. Every time there's been talk of them being in the past, going to the present, I've had some concerns with the idea because I feel like Marvel's done it a lot, right? They did it with the Eternals. They were always there. We just didn't see them. Captain America, he started in the past and he shows up in the present. Captain Marvel starts in the past, shows up in the present. And even technically Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man with Hank, he was there. We just didn't see him, right? Like it's been done. So I do have that concern.
Yeah.
That said, I do like the idea of distinguish itself from past interpretations of Fantastic Four specifically. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I like that point. I also think in the idea that they are in a completely different Earth from ours, and the idea like I would love to see them like their version of the 1960s is more advanced. Like you know how in the 60s they had all this ideas of like what the future is going to be. What if that future is now in the 60s, but with all that kind of 60s kind of like
retro
gimmicky,
vibe to it,
retro vibes and everything like that. Like that in my mind, I see that.
I like that idea. His next question: which villain or antagonist would we like to see the Fantastic Four face off in the movies? I have one I would most want more than any others, but I'm not married to the idea. That What's for yours? Me would be Annihilus.
Oh, see, now you took my idea.
Good, great. We're on the same page. Stick him in the negative zone, bring in Annihilus. Just don't kill him at the end of the movie. Don't kill him at the end of the movie because I want the Annihilation story at some point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we know that we've heard the rumors of it being Galactus and bringing in the
If it's the real Galactus, that's fine. If it's a space cloud, I don't want it.
I call it a big fart cloud, but yeah, why not?
Sure. So. And just the elephant in the room. Dr. Doom is fine, but I'd be almost surprised if he wasn't in the movie at some point. I just don't know if we need him as the primary antagonist yet. Again, going off the first part of Philip's question, if you're trying to distinguish yourself from the past versions, step away from Dr. Doom.
Which brings us to because we've Travis and I had talked about in the beginnings of the show when we talked about the X-Men too. Distinguishing yourself from, X teams, don't have Logan be on the team in your first iteration, or don't have it be Logan, have it maybe be X-23.
Yeah, and we do know that, at least with Spider-Man, that is what they did. They wanted to do something different than the previous ones.
Yep.
All right, Amari Daniels. Who would you want as the composer for the Fantastic Four? He mentions liking Alan Silvestri for Captain America: The First Avenger, Henry Jackman, who did the Winter Soldier. He likes Henry Jackman's music, The Winter Soldier. He's done a bunch of stuff for Marvel as well. Mm-hmm. And then Natalie Holt, who did Henry Jackman also did X-Men First Class, and Natalie Holt, who did Loki.
It's
not limited to those though. You can name someone else.
That's tough for me to answer. And I'll tell you why, because I mean they're all really good in their genre, but without kind of understanding what they're doing with the movie itself, it's hard for me. Like if I'm gonna go like just looking at the poster and going with the vibes of that, I would say the WandaVision composers would be great.
I think that's a great idea.
But that's just strictly going on what I'm seeing in the poster. I have no other idea of what to base it off of.
And I always struggle with this question mainly because I don't know all the composers off the top of my head.
That too.
But Natalie Holt with Loki, I think, is a great idea because Loki bounced around in time. I could see where this, we just talked about it. I could see where this particular movie has some different time periods as part of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and steal one of his potentials and go with Natalie Holt.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I just need to hear more about a brief synopsis to kind of see where they're going with it. So.
And then finally from Jim, who gets his sports question in there. On a scale of Madam Web to No Way Home, how interested are you in the return of EA College football this summer?
I am glad that the athletes will now be paid.
Yes.
So there's that. What I'm glad about, man, I haven't played a college or sports game or a Madden game since I was in college. It's just time and just doesn't entertain me as much outside of watching it on the real thing. So
for me, it's a Madam Web. I genuinely I don't care. I'm just gonna call it what it is. I don't care. But for you, Jim, No Way Home. I know you work in the sports industry. You're a much bigger sports fan than I am. I hope you love it.
I am jealous of sometimes of you put out your tweets where you're literally getting ready to do your camera work at that point, right on court level for some of those games. Like,
he's seen some awesome stuff.
You're living the dream, man. You're living your best life, and sincerely jealous. And I hope you're doing well, Jim. So.
Absolutely.
So that's all.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you all for writing in those questions. And from a couple of weeks ago, Fact or Fiction, because we had it. We took a week off. We had Madam Web. So this is dating back a couple of weeks when I did those. So number 1, Brent, Daredevil will don a version of the Shadowland suit in Daredevil Born Again. 67% said fact, 33% said fiction. Those set photos, well, not making my fact or fiction, but that's just a version of a suit. Doesn't mean it won't be another version coming.
We'll find out.
The Blade video game will release before the MCU Blade movie. 50-50 split, which I'm kind of surprised at. Some people have more faith than I do.
I don't know. Allegedly, they're still making that movie, and
that movie is that's
allegedly it's still going to happen. But this would be one that got away if the movie doesn't happen for sure. And I know this wasn't something that Feige set out to make. That Ali came to him with it, but still, this would be one that got away if they end up having to scrap this.
Yeah, I have faith. I do have faith.
Absolutely.
Number 3, Mephisto will not appear in Agatha Coven of Chaos, but he will specifically be mentioned as existing in the MCU. 92%, Brent, say we're finally going to get some sort of officially Mephisto confirmed.
Mephisto. Yep. Yeah, and then he's going to show up in there, and you're going to get it wrong. Because he showed up.
You know what? Finally. It's kind of like the casting of Fantastic Four. I will be glad when it's done.
I hope it's a fly on the curtain again.
You know what? Why not? Or a cat scratch fever,
Absolutely. Yes, as to that, for sure.
All right, Brent, your turn. What you got?
All right, first up, X-Men 97 will start with previously on X-Men.
100% fact. We see from the trailer they've leaned hard into it. I think that would be an opportunity lost.
It really would be. I think I'm saying fact as well, and they should basically show the clip they just showed from the trailer, of Xavier dying, basically, something like that. All right, next one. we will finally see Wolverine / Hugh Jackman wear his mask in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Like in a trailer, or you talk about it in the movie?
Well, both technically, but
I was
meant
gonna say
the
like
movie.
first. Oh no, we're seeing it. Yeah, absolutely. He is wearing that. He's wearing that mask. Now the question is, wide eyes or not?
And I know there was this picture of an awesome looking mask going around at a convention that people were convinced was real, and then people were like, "No, it's AI generated." I don't know what the story about that is. It probably is AI generated, but it looked cool. I hope the wide eyes. Because I want to see them. To me, that's part of the look.
I will shoot my shot and say that we will get wide eyes.
I hope you're right. But yes, so fact on that as well. All right, final one. Within the next 2 years,
Okay.
we will get rumors of Sony developing an animated movie for Spider-Man: The Clone Saga.
Let's take this each part of this at this point. I think this is the first time like there'll be rumors. We're not like
Rumors. Well, I don't think the movie's going to get made is the thing, but I do think we're going to get from the Broken Clock Scoopers. I think we'll start getting some rumors of an animated Spider-Man: The Clone Saga. But I had to put a timeline on.
You put a timeline that we'll get rumors. So do leakers or scooper madness count as this?
Yeah, because that's where the rumors come from. Of course,
shoot, I'm gonna create. Then technically, I'm gonna create a rumor right now. Guess what? It's a thing, Brent. Does that make it right now?
No, like scoopers who actually like try to do this. You know what I mean?
Hurt.
You don't try to
I'm
do this.
hurt.
You have more integrity than that.
Thank you.
The thing is, like, I don't genuinely think they're going to make the movie. And when I first thought of this, I was like, they will make a Spider-Man Clone Saga. And I'm like, no, that's a fiction. I don't think they're going to do that. But I do think it's something that Sony would look at. I think it's something they would look at developing and stuff like that. Especially if they pulled it with the Spider-Verse design. They already have so many designs for different Spider-Men, including a Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider. And I could see them, I could see rumors getting out there. I don't think it'll actually get made.
I think you have taken a big swing at that point, and I will go just a bit outside.
There's a lot of it. Like if they make the movie, then I get it wrong because I just said. I guess technically rumors could still be that leads to making the movie, but I don't think they'll actually make the ungraded. They're not making it.
Part of me just wants to see a scooper just put it out there and just say, technically I'm right. I was like, well, shoot, man, how many things does some of our scoopers just throw spaghetti at the bullseye, the dartboard, and hit bullseye?
Absolutely. It's happening all the time now. It's just getting worse week to week. So I'm leaning into it, trying to have a little fun with the people that like to ruin things.
Yeah, I'll say fiction on that, but I do appreciate the humorous take on it.
I think it's a fact. I think we'll get the rumors. Okay. I just don't think we'll get the movie.
Well, you can hope. So, but I'll take it. Come on, let's get some more Ben Reilly action going.
Absolutely, every time.
All right, so I will post those Sunday afternoon on the Marvel Alliance Twitter feed. So let your voices be heard on that. And let us close out the show as we always do. We want to apologize to our listeners right now because full disclosure, I had known I'd be off for 2 weeks at this point. We may have not started Comic Book Club when we did at that point.
Yeah, we didn't pick the best time to start it, but we'll roll with it. We'll do tonight's issue. We'll take a couple weeks off, and then we'll come back.
We'll come back to it again. Just leave you hanging at that point. So. All right, so let us get into Old Man Logan Part 2, Issue 67. High-level thoughts, Brent.
Gruesome. Gruesome is the word that comes to mind when looking at this particular issue. This gang of Ghost Riders goes after Clint and goes after Logan, and some gruesome stuff in there. But to me, what I really enjoyed was Clint yelling at Logan for not standing up and fighting. There's Logan just sitting there taking it.
It is interesting in the sense of like when they have that, he has that realization. It's like, why aren't you getting up? Why aren't you moving? And he's like, I told you, I'm a pacifist now. He said, I thought you were just using that as a line.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think you mean it. It's like just so much gruesome stuff. And then we get this like flashback to Wolverine in costume uh, with like Mr. Sinister, and I think
Omega
that's supposed to
Red.
be Omega Red. Yeah, there's another person, I'm not sure who it is. Uh, just it's like, what happened to him, right? Like, what happened? Again, I've read the story before, but like if you're reading this for the first time, it's like, what happened to him? And and again, the art in this is just beautiful all the way through.
Oh, it is. Steve McNiven and Dexter Vines, and our colorist for this is Murray Hollowell. Great combination. They've worked together for many years. What I like about stories like this, these kind of alternate futures, that the world building that happens. And you see, you get the mole men, and you see exactly like how the mole men came back and what they ended up doing. Like they're the quote unquote immune system of the earth.
Yep.
And then we get the Ghost Riders, and how I would love to know a story of like they're obviously not real Ghost Riders, but they've obviously acquired the Ghost Riders, bikes.
Yeah, how do they do that with their bike? They just light them on fire. They have to get new wheels every time.
Yeah.
I don't know, like new tires. Like it's a great visual though.
Yeah, how about what's the town? It's Hammer Falls with the Mjolnir. Basically, everyone worshiping Mjolnir for the heroes to come back.
Sure, you do what you got to do, but that's not the part that always surprises me the most about this story. The part that surprises me the most is when Clint Barton talks about ex-wife number 3, the youngest daughter of Peter Parker.
Yeah,
I'm like, dang man, robbing the cradle. There's an age gap there.
yeah, and what's the I forget her name, Tanya.
Yeah. And then they talk about they have to rescue Ashley, who is his daughter, with Peter. So it's Peter Parker's grandkid.
Yeah, and I'm just Peter Parker looks like he and Mary Jane didn't work out.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So because that's it's sad, but we know in the comics right now, they're still not a thing. So who knew they were predicting the future?
Right, absolutely. So,
but I do like the granddaughter of Spider-Man is in the costume, but I wonder if she's just wearing the costume or does she have any powers?
Something tells me we'll find out pretty soon.
We will find out. We will find out in a few
I guess
weeks.
Not, because we're going to wait a few weeks, and I'm not going to read it yet.
No, we'll find out in a few weeks, and you all will find out in a few weeks, unless you just can't wait and you got to know.
Exactly.
So, but all right, so volume 203 in the books at that point, and as I said, I'll be back in 3 weeks, and Mr. Hines will be here next week, and the following week, Mr. Snell will be returning to the show. So, I will be enjoying being a listener again at that point, and hopefully some good news breaks for you all at that point. Maybe some big Spider-Man 4 news comes out, something like that.
There's been all kinds of rumors flying around it.
Yeah,
lately, so maybe.
Scooper Madness is great. A couple of plugs I want to say first before we close out and get to post credits. One, my next episode of World's Finest True Believers will be dropping this weekend. New guest and new definitely good friend, Dave the Film Junkie, will be joining me on World's Finest True Believers. A short book, but a very pivotal book that has recently come into the lexicon, and praising one of my favorite artists and writers, Darwin Cook. So the preview tweet goes out on Friday, and the episode will drop on Sunday morning. So check that out. And also on Saturday night, I will be returning to check out Omnidog's Vault channel on YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be coming on Jess's show for Batter Days in the Bat Club. So we'll be talking about one of our topics that we'll be discussing is our favorite Kickstarters that we have backed. We'll be talking about that, plus our recent buys, everything comics, and probably, as always, if you've ever seen Omnidog's Vault, us talking for a while, then playing a half an hour catch-up with what's going on in the chat. So it's a lot of fun going in the show. So check that out. And but yeah, so Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
I am not coming up on a whole bunch of shows like that, but Brentac Prime on Threads and Twitter and TikTok, but I don't post there very often. But I'm on there, I guess, technically. So,
you share a bunch of stuff with me, and I share a bunch of stuff with
absolutely. You. Absolutely. There's some hilarious stuff there, but
absolutely.
Threads is where most of my actual posting goes. A little bit on the others.
Yep. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balgo. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast. And you can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open on all accounts. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post credits. It's been a while since Marvel's had a "it's all falling apart, things are changing" article. Well, Hollywood Reporter, it's been too long. It's only been a couple of months. Hollywood Reporter put up kind of a quote unquote, I would call this kind of a confirming certain scooper madness at this point based on their sources. I wouldn't call it like the last one. It was by Hollywood Reporter, but the last time we kind of revisited this was definitely a hit piece that a lot of things came out untrue and were just made up at that point. Mm-hmm. This one's a little bit more of here's a pulse check of what's going on at Marvel Studios. So it's entitled "How Marvel is Quietly Retooling Amid Superhero Fatigue." So a couple of key points we'll kind of look at. Where the first one, early in February, the company completed reshoots for Agatha: Darkhold Diaries, the WandaVision spin-off starring Kathryn Hahn that is expected to hit Disney Plus this fall. The company usually budgets 5 days for reshoots into the schedule, but the studio completed the work in just one, fueling a sunny outlook around the show internally, according to sources associated with the series. So, the show's title has jumped around so many different times that I'm not sure exactly what the show is called outside of Agatha. I do think they're having fun with this, and I have a theory where I think each one of these titles is actually a title for the show, but it's a title for the episode of the show.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think is happening.
So reshoots, Brent, our favorite topic at that point. We know when they have reshoots, everything, the sky is falling, pack up, the movie's going to be terrible, the show's going to be terrible. But moving from 5 to 1, we've never seen that happen before. Well, I wouldn't say never. I wouldn't say never, but it's not typical.
It's certainly not typical, and it's like, wow, you really overshot there. Like, you only needed 1/5 of the number of times. Like, I am curious what they thought they needed that they realized they didn't. But, sometimes you have those days, you go to work and you're on the ball with it and you get things figured out right away and you're just firing on all cylinders, whatever cliche you want to say. And maybe that was one of those things and they got everything they needed. Maybe it was some sort of action sequence they were trying to clean up and they thought they would have to take longer and they realized they didn't. It can't be a bad thing.
Yeah. Or you view this as you want. Bob Iger's tightening up on the ship, saying, "You want 5 days? No, you're getting 1."
Yeah, I mean that is possible. Absolutely.
So, but again, I'm excited about seeing it. It's an interesting concept for the show for a character that was a big part of the success of WandaVision. So we will see what happens this fall. Next bullet point: the studio also quietly hired Eric Pearson to polish the script for Fantastic Four, which will shoot this summer in London. Pearson is a company stalwart who worked on Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow and has a reputation for taking projects over the finish line. I enjoyed Black Widow. I thought it was a good movie, and I really enjoyed. I'm one of the ones who loved Thor Ragnarok, and you know what? I'm okay with a person coming in and maybe bring across the finish line and punching it up. So
I loved them both. I loved both of those movies. If they have a script doctor from those movies helping out with this one, to me that's good news.
I agree. It is good news. Marvel has also hired Joanna Callow, the showrunner for the acclaimed FX series The Bear, to work on the script for the Thunderbolts. The Hollywood Reporter has learned the film will begin shooting in March in Atlanta. Her hiring adds flair to the prestige of the project, which stars Florence Pugh, and according to a source who has read the previous script drafts of the script. So they're getting ready to shoot next month, Brent. I think this is another one of those things like we always talk about when you start hearing filming happening and all of a sudden you start hearing castings. No, they didn't just get cast at that point. They were already cast, and now they're ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're Joanna Callow is joining to work on the script at that point, I think this has already happened.
Yeah, most likely that is the case. These kind of reports are often behind. So,
And we both said we love the bear, so go for it.
The Bear is so good. I'm looking forward to the third season.
Yes. The first of the new Avengers movies due out in 2026 was initially titled Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, but will be getting a new title to remove the character's name. Those sources say that even before Major's conviction, the studio was making moves to minimize the character after the Quantumania underperformed. It's really interesting when you hear underperform and then you hear grossing $476 million. It's there's more to it, and we already know why that's quote unquote underperforming based on where it started. It's just kind of funny to me.
Based on a reported budget of $275 million, that's bad. Yeah. And you know what? I was hoping they'd recast King. I was hoping to continue with King's story.
Still could.
At the same time, the way Loki season 2 ended, it's if they want that to be it, that can be it easily.
That's okay.
So, it's fine. Like either way, I'm fine.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, again, I can understand they got really excited with what they saw with Quantumania with Jonathan Majors at that point. I can't blame them for saying, oh, this is what we're going to pivot to. You went all in on it. Unfortunately, some people are terrible people, and you screw around and you find out, and guess what? Mr. Majors found out you can't be doing that. That's a big no-no, to say the least. And he got convicted of it, and now we're moving on. So if we're going to pivot and we're not going to see Kang in this iteration for a while just to separate ourselves, so be it.
I almost want the next Avengers movie to be smaller in scope anyway. Like, they don't all have to be Infinity War Endgame style now.
Do we want to have it grounded?
I mean, yeah, sure, ground it. Ground it. Like, just they don't need to do the epic 2-part event or whatever. And I know there's rumors of Secret Wars being split to it, and that's fine for Secret Wars. But like, they were trying to recreate Infinity War and Endgame, and if they had pulled it off, great. It's not going to happen this time, so let's change it. Let's give us more of a Avengers 1 or Age of Ultron level where you have your Avengers threat, but it's the world at stake, not the entire existence.
Well, I'll also agree, because I've said it, Travis Nell said it, one of the biggest mistakes that they made was ending Phase 4 without an Avengers movie.
They needed something.
That was a big miss on their part.
They needed something.
Yep. All right, and last ones. On the TV side, Marvel has been reorganizing its operations to allow for greater control from showrunners. A very smart move, in my opinion. A move made after the critical failure of Secret Invasion, which sidelined executive producer Kyle Bradstreet after a year, with various creative factions vying for influence in his wake. Quote from one source saying, "The focus is internal this year," says one insider. That's part of the tinkering behind the scenes. Execs are not calling it a reboot, not even a soft one, but more of a creative retooling. Some of our studios lost a little focus, so the first step is we've taken in what we've reduced in volume. Iger said on a February 7th earnings call, "We've reduced output, particularly at Marvel, in order to ensure the films you're making can be even better." Quote, "They're not going to give up," says a source who has worked with Marvel over the past year. They want to make something great. I also think that's also a shot at another competitive distinguished competition at Warner Brothers. I think that is a very big direct shot at them.
As in giving up?
Just like one bad thing means you're going to throw everything out, baby with the bathwater, and try again.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
So, but again, we are both very excited about James Gunn and DC Studios for the relaunch of the DC Universe. So, but yeah, so that was kind of a quick breakdown of the article. Again, not a hit piece, just a lot of confirmations of things we have heard or either talked about on the show. Yes, it's not hearing officially from Marvel. It's coming from Hollywood Reporter. It's a very well reference on our show. We're going to go with it as almost basically one step away from being fact.
Yes.
So, all right, well, I will see you in 3 weeks, and Brent will see you next week with Mr. Hines taking on. We'll see what's happening in the week of Marvel. See you all soon. Bye-bye.